This is The David Lehman Show.
North Georgia's own News Talk, WJUL, 97.5 and 1230 on your AM dial. This is The David Lehman Show, and I would like to congratulate a special college class of 2012. You've graduated from the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Pubic Affairs. What? Graduating students and guests at the school, which is part of the University of Texas in Austin, receive commencement programs to their shock and horror that read pubic instead of public on their covers. Apparently organizers, printers, and everybody else didn't notice the embarrassing typographical error until after the pamphlets were delivered to roughly 500 attendees. Ouch! 130 of them were students receiving master's and doctoral degrees, and to make matters worse, Robert Hutchings, the dean of the school, sent each of the graduates a letter of apology accompanied by an electronic copy and multiple hard copies of the corrected program. His communication office also tweeted an apology for the egregious error, EGG, R-E-G-I-O-U-S. Drop an L here, add a G there. Paul, I ask you, is that so wrong?
Well, I tell you what, they need to have a master's degree in proofreading there. Basically, that's pretty sad in this day and age. But, you know, you see the school zones all the time that show the school zone spelled wrong or some things like that.
Something someone should have caught along the way. Well, we got a heavy show today. We got some heavy content coming up. I'm going to try to keep my wits about me as I go through, because I tend to pop a little vein up here in the forehead, and you can see it more clearly with the receding hairline. Today we're going to be discussing the metamorphosis of our country from one nation under God to one nation under surveillance. And there's likely no better place to begin than predator drones, those nasty little unmanned aircraft controlled by joysticks in some air-conditioned building, and dropping bombs on those deemed undesirable. As the wars drone ever onward, the size, scope, and frequency of these little insidious devices increases. And as with most military developments, their commercial applications are coming soon to a city near you. The Miami Police Department wants deployment of a surveillance predator drone to keep an eye on the shady citizens with, of course, the justification of supporting the colossal failure known as the war on drugs. Ditto for New York City. And they'll tell two friends, and so on, and so on. Now, if government agencies spying on citizens isn't sufficiently unconstitutional and outrageous enough, now they're proposing to arm them. I don't know about you, but the idea of a weapon literally looming over my head, monitoring my location at all times, with the ability to deliver a guided missile with the press of a button, is profoundly disturbing. An affront and an omnipresent threat to our very lives. It's a free country, though, right, Paul?
Well, I tell you, if these are these unmanned drones with the batteries similar to the one in my cell phone, I don't want to be under that one.
You're a little lighthearted about this. These things are carrying real missiles, killing real people.
Well, maybe in Pakistan right now.
Right, but they're coming to American skies. Does this not bother you?
You think, how far away do you think that it's going time-wise before they start putting missiles on drones? I think I can understand surveillance. You
can understand that? How?
No, I mean, I can understand them trying to get away with that right now, but arming them...
Paul, let me ask you this. What has the government tried to get away with that they haven't actually gotten away with?
I'm not telling you that you're not...
It's not just me, it's you too.
No, I agree. I mean, the things that are happening now are not the fact that they're armed and as if somebody's... who are they going to fire on? Are they going to take you out, Dave, because you're riding in the HOV lane?
We're going to get to that in a minute, why they're going to take me out. So I just want to enjoy these last precious few days. No, look, I'm not so paranoid as to think it's the audacity, it's the unconstitutionality, it's the lack of freedom, it's the threat. It feels like our government is at war with us.
Well, I mean, when you have to take a look at, I completely agree. Right now, they're using these already. The EPA are using drones.
Correct. Yeah, they did over Iowa last week, I believe.
Right. They're looking at cattle ranchers.
For what reason?
I don't know, maybe grazing on government lands or some silly stuff like that. But yes, it definitely gets into the arena of the Fourth Amendment, justifiable, sure. Probable cause. Well, I don't know if there's a true anything about privacy in the Constitution, but probable cause, you can't just have something out there monitoring you 24/7. You know, they have to have a reason to be up there. Now, it could be under the guise of, oh, well, instead of having to pay helicopter pilots to track down criminals running through the streets like you see on Miami Vice, with the thermal imager, they could just send up a drone. It's a lot cheaper, So it makes sense in those regards. But then it's that mission creep that I think that already in Congress, bipartisan, they're talking about, making sure that, of course, in their minds, making sure
right.
that they're going to have to be accountable, and there'll have to be some kind of
accountability is a lost art.
I completely agree, but the fact that the conversation's even already occurring, I think, is a sign.
The conversation's occurring because I'm pissed, and other citizens are pissed, and
probably so from both sides of the aisle. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I want to, it reminds me of the story. It doesn't have to take a drone to do that. I mean, my brother-in-law, his car broke down on 75 last week, and so he called the help truck.
The Hero Unit?
He calls a Hero Unit, and while they're on the phone, they said, well, let us check to see if we can find you. And then all of a sudden they say, yes, we see you. We will send the truck. So obviously they use the cameras for the traffic cameras.
Yeah, I'm going to be diving into the cameras too. It wasn't just the Predator drones that are monitoring your every step. It's other stuff too. And one just ancillary thought, it almost really doesn't matter who owns the planes, who built them, who paid for them, who's deploying them. It matters who controls them.
Sure.
Okay, so the
information that it pulls in, how long they can keep it.
Sure, but there are state-sponsored banks, computer data banks of hackers in China and Thailand and God only knows where out there. The state wants they want the information from these things. So if there was a program that would allow you to take control, because these things are they're unmanned, so they're all remotely controlled. So there's somebody sitting in a room somewhere with ability to control the planes.
They got one of our stealth drones in Iran. That's exactly how they did that.
You sure? I mean, that's a program, or it crashed and they're trying to reverse engineer it.
They said it crashed, but when they took a picture of it, it was almost in perfect condition. So based on what I've been able to gather, it looks like if it was taken over, do you think the government wants to tell us that Iran was able to hack one of our best?
Good point. The other thing that I thought was a good point. The other thing I thought perhaps is maybe it was left there deliberately.
Maybe so. You could drop a Chrysler into caveman times. It doesn't mean, and I'm not calling all Iranians cavemen. I'm talking the government. They're very, although they do seem advanced with the nuclear technology, it's all borrowed. It's all foreign people coming in really running this for them. You don't necessarily have the ability, even if you could figure out what that stuff's made of. I don't think they can make anything out of it. I'm not, except if they give it to the Chinese. Now that's a different ball of wax.
An old girlfriend's mom had a little dog. And she didn't tell him okay or no, those words. She commanded him with stolen and paid for. So she'd put down a little treat. She'd say, stolen. And the dog would sit there and he'd drool and he'd be wagging, just get ready to get paid for. And he jumps in and grabs it. Now, I received some emails about folks not being able to locate me on Facebook. And there's a really good reason for that. Paul, you know what it is?
You don't have a Facebook
account? Deactivation, my friend.
Deactivation? Whatever did you do?
Don't get me wrong. I loved that site. But the sneaky, plausibly deniable 90-day tracking of its users is beyond the pale. And how it works is, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. As I was reading all along, all the little things that Facebook does, again, pulling information out of you that you don't volunteer. And the 90-day tracking is even when you're not on Facebook and you're surfing the web on other sites, whatever you happen to look like, or anyone that sits at your computer is out there doing and looking for, they're tracking you. And it's reporting back what sites that you went to, how long you stayed there, your interactivity with them. Where do they get the audacity to track me?
I think it's a conspiracy by the United States Postal Service to get people to start doing postcards again.
Paul, is there anything you're serious about? I want to hear some. You don't like your privacy being violated.
Well, amen. But at the same time, I don't have a Facebook account by choice, because
Hey, you've never had one though, right?
No, absolutely not. And maybe maybe in some levels I'm more paranoid than you.
Impossible.
I don't know.
I see your paranoia and raise you one craziness.
That's right. So, but I've always had this queasiness about. Oh, I don't like necessarily sharing. I'm not going to be giving updates about
Well, sharing is caring, Paul. What are you doing?
It's great for families, and staying up, keeping the parents and grandparents up to speed, and that kind of thing. I can understand that. I'm still an email generation, type of person.
You're kicking it old school.
I'm kicking it old school with emails, in my CD-ROMs.
Right.
And so basically, I've always worried about going out for a job, being able to somebody to Google search it. The more times you are referenced anywhere out there on the net, the more information future employers can search. There are law firms now that are required to do social media searches.
Yeah.
And you can't control what people are writing to you.
That's the other thing. Do you know, even though you're not on Facebook profiles people that aren't on Facebook.
Right, but that's more
pictures of you, associating names, facial recognition technology. They are just absolutely over the top. And so the predator drones and our government spying on us, and Facebook, 90 days running. On the 91st day, they drop that first day of searches and then continue on. All this information sitting in a data bank available for retrieval, basically to bust your hump.
Well, it all started with Kroger.
The VIP Kroger card.
That's right. They want that information so they can target emails, they can target banner ads, and they can sell that information to ancillary. That's how they make their money. Facebook is going down the tubes as we speak. Stock is
down the tubes.
Well,
might be a bit of a stretch.
Okay, let's put it another way. The IPO was one of the biggest flops in history.
I believe, God, I probably should have looked at. I believe it's trading, its PE price to earnings is like 103 times. So whatever their revenue is they're generating now, it's valued as if it was actually earning 103 times that revenue.
Yeah, that can't be good.
It just can't be good.
Well, I think it didn't Sears or some huge company. No, they're not a huge company anymore, but they dropped.
Sears? What is this?
What
Sears
is this?
company?
This Roebuck thing. But yeah, there's a lot of advertisers already pulling out because it's showing that they are not pulling in they're getting the click-throughs or whatever they call that stuff.
Right.
It's the money generating idea. It was never there, and it's all a bunch of hot air as far as I'm concerned.
You mentioned the Kroger VIP card. I always wanted the discount, of course, when I went into Kroger. Of course, I refused to give that information, like filling out a card so you can track what I eat. You must have lost your mind. At any rate, as luck would have it, I found one on the ground.
Hey, all
and
the better.
I spun that bad boy onto my key ring, and now when I go to Kroger, you have a Kroger card? Oh, yes, I do. Here you are. So, Daddy be picking up the discounts.
See, now this is what you need to help the people out there, Dave. It's not just to rail against all this that's happening. It's how to help people get around it. Right. Right. So you're going to teach them. You're going to have a YouTube video on how to hijack a predator drone that's over your house.
It used to be easier, though. You used to be able to run and hide, but these, you really can't escape a missile. It's got some girth to it when it lands, like you at your kitchen table.
As long as it's not laser sighted by your neighbor across the street, I think.
True. Well, I much more trust my neighbor not to infringe upon my rights because, I might shoot back than I would my government, which seems all out to know every little facet of every little inkling of what's going on in my life. I went to Great Clips the other day. In Georgia, Great Clips is a little place for a $15 haircut worth every penny. And I always ask for a discount, of course, because the landscaping just not as plush as it used to be. And the first words out of their mouth are, "Phone number, please." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't give that out." And they look at me like I said, "You can look in your computer, and I'm listed under Mr. X." And so they roll their eyes at me. They type up Mr. X. "Oh, okay, here you are." And that's how I got Mr. X. Why do you need my phone number? So I can get junk mail and crap and no. Just no. You have to be vigilant. You just have to be vigilant about protecting your privacy. It's virtually impossible, and I believe you can try to run and sidestep it, but ultimately it's going to catch up with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's unavoidable. Like I was saying about the road cameras, they're coming out. We're not as bad as England, where they have one in every corner of the wherever you go, and they, go through a loudspeaker and tell you to pick up your trash. It's we're always.
Sir, did you drop that wrapper?
Turn around and go pick that up, you.
Right, or prepare to be stunned with a zapper.
That's right. That's right.
Paul, conversationally, you got the moves like Jagger.
Well, thank you.
Someday they're going to say, conversationally, you got the moves like Riley.
Life for Riley. That's right.
So I wonder, what's the trajectory? Where is this headed? In a bigger picture, the war on terror is quite illegal. Terror is a tactic, and not really an enemy. So in essence, we'd better be prepared for a war that simply never ends. And when we get back, I believe that might be a good time to dive into exactly what all that means. WJUL Radio. Stand by.
Why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to?
Oh, mommy dearest, just gotta love that woman for some stuff. Maybe not for too much, but at least for all the prized quotes that we have. What are you giggling at over there?
No more wire hangers.
That's right, Christina. This is WJUL. If you're just joining us, it's the David Lehman Show here, and we were discussing the invasion, the complete loss of your privacy through all sorts of different methods coming at you in every single direction. Very, very tough to keep your privacy if that's something that's important to you. A schism, by the way, a chasm between generations too, because the upcoming generation, Paul, don't really seem to have any kind of concept about privacy or its importance. You have a teenage daughter.
I have a 14-year-old daughter. Absolutely.
Well, my condolences.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I'm surprised I have more hair than you.
As am I. Things just aren't right in the world. But as we're getting out of that commercial break there, we were talking about terror being a tactic. It's not really an enemy. So if our federal government is saying that this is a war on terror, they're having a war on a tactic. And if it's a war, how can it ever end if it's on a tactic? Because there's no defined enemy, and there's no defined end date. There's no defined winning or victory. So it's never ending.
As long as they're killing the bad guys over there, I don't have a problem with that tactic.
What about when they start killing the bad guys over here, or claiming bad guys here that aren't really bad guys? What about the constitutionality of going to a war that Congress doesn't vote on, and you have to declare war?
I promise you, Dave, the first time a missile is launched from a Predator drone in the U.S.
You're crazy.
What, you think? How are you going to stop it before it happens? I mean, I don't think we're that far down the line, Dave. I think we'll,
oh man.
And I'm not whistling past the graveyard here with my rose-colored sunglasses on.
Those things again.
I would have more issues with that, like the EPA using it for like cattle and probable cause. Just like when it comes to the end of this month, when they have Supreme Court rules on the mandate and the rest of the healthcare law, that's where hopefully, as intended, where these things are ruled upon and stopped. And I think that that will be a
like
good,
Kelo versus Connecticut. Was that stopped?
Having to wait until it gets to the Supreme Court is very
how it can even
ground.
be a decision in the land of the free is true or false. True or false? American citizens are looked at askance by their government.
As what?
Askance. They look at you old squirrely-eyed. Look at you like quizzically with furrowed brow and suspicion.
Well, that's the classic bureaucrat. I mean, their job is to run your life as much as we'll let them. And I completely agree with you that government is way too intrusive, that it's way over the top. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily prioritizing my fears based on armed drones. I think we're okay for a little bit. Now, when it comes to just monitoring, yeah, absolutely. Let's. That, like I was talking about earlier about them talking about legislation and things like that. How else do you propose to do it? I mean, you're not going to organize a march in the street.
I hear you, but doesn't it bother you that you're a danger? That you're guilty by virtue of the fact that you breathe and vast information about where you shop, your known associates, where you are, where you go, what you read, what you purchase, and most importantly, how you think, are all in a database assessing the likelihood of the risk to the establishment or threat to the system, if you prefer. And the kicker, we supply a lot of this information voluntarily via Facebook.
Well, that and everything else that you sign up for. If you want something for free, whenever you're getting offered something for free for your email,
don't take it.
Don't take it.
I've got some free advice for you.
Don't take it. No, thank you. If I have to give you my email address as part of that, no.
It's a picture of Uncle Sam. He's pointing his finger at you, and the classic thing, it's like, pull my finger.
So yeah, when it comes to these, predator drones and things like that you're talking about, as long as they keep using them in Pakistan. I mean, that's one thing I agree with Obama, and that is that as long, other than I'd like to capture a few of these guys and do a couple more waterboarding.
You like the waterboarding thing?
I do. I think we need to do a couple more waterboardings to get some more information. But otherwise, the drones, they just took somebody out just the other day, so I couldn't.
Number 2 Al Qaeda guy they took out. At least they're claiming he's number 2 Al Qaeda guy. Either way,
the 20th number 2.
Some bad guys are going down, but it's hard to tell your bad guys apart anymore. I don't recall a ballot initiative enabling our local government to spend millions of taxpayer dollars for a camera at every damn intersection to watch us, nor the authority to add a remotely controlled device to our home electricity or to collect data from our kids who are in the doctor's office asking if there's a gun in the house. Basically, a citizenry that will tolerate molestation in broad daylight at their airports, they suffer. They suffer greatly, apparently, from, what can only be described as National Stockholm Syndrome. You remember, what National Stockholm Syndrome is, Paul?
No, tell me, Dave.
Stockholm Syndrome is like a captor.
National.
National Stockholm. See, never enough time on the radio with you guys. WJUL and the David Lehman Show, 97.5 on your FM dial and WJULradio.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Sunday.